I want to start today with a confession, and it might not be the one that you are expecting. So, for years, I too believed the lie. I believed that if I could just optimize hard enough, if I could track carefully enough, if I managed my stress precisely enough that I could control what my body was doing, how it was responding. I believed that my symptoms were a problem that needed to be solved with the right protocol, the right steps. I believed that somewhere out there was this perfect combination of supplements and meal planning and timing and discipline, and it would all finally come together and my body would respond in the way that I was hoping, and I would reach those goals that I was setting for myself year over year. And I want you to know that, because if you're in the same place right now that I was back then, if you are exhausted from literally trying to do everything right and listening to everybody that's out there telling you all of these different pieces of advice, and you still feel like something's off in your body, or that you feel wrong in your body, or it's not responding, or you're not reaching your goals like you want to, I'm not talking down to you today. I have been exactly where you are. So when I tell you that this cortisol trend that you see in the social media space is actually lying to you, I'm not saying it from a pedestal. I am saying it as someone who fell for the same machine, climbed out of it, and learned what actually works, what that root actually is that we all as women are actually needing to go uproot and heal. So I want to bring you with me on this journey, and that's what this whole series that we're starting today is going to be all about. So welcome to Healing Her Feminine. I am Lindsey Alexis, a functional hormone and nervous system coach, and I am so glad you're here with me today. If you have been with me for a while, you will notice, if you're watching on YouTube, that the background is a little different. It is summertime as I am recording this series, so I am in a new location for the summer, and we'll see if any other podcasts go back to the original background, but I'm sure that's the least of y'all's worries. So if you've spent any time on social media in the last 6 months, probably longer, let's be honest, because who hasn't? Okay, you have more than likely come across a post, if not 5 to 10, about cortisol, about regulating your cortisol levels. And I have even been there too on this podcast and mentioned your cortisol levels every single time. But I want to bring you in deeper than that. It literally is like the trend that's happening right now. I actually went to the bookstore the other day. So many things are talking about cortisol. It is not even funny. So the main terminology that I've been seeing lately, and why I was inspired to create this series, are two things called cortisol belly and cortisol face. And I think the cortisol face kind of came from that Ozempic face stamina that everyone's giving out. There's also supplements out there that are being promoted for cortisol. There is cortisol detoxes, cortisol resets, cortisol to lose weight if you lower your cortisol levels. Cortisol is why you're tired. Cortisol is why you're anxious. Cortisol is why you can't lose weight no matter what you do. So many things keep coming back to cortisol. And while some of those are true, there's actually there's a deeper thing underneath all of this that nobody's really taking a real good look at. So this whole trend it's absolutely exploded. Search interest in cortisol has doubled this year, doubled. So we are halfway through 2026 and the keyword search for cortisol has doubled. There are entire product lines that are now built solely around cortisol. There are supplements, there are programs, there are protocols, and they're all promising to fix your cortisol and thus, therefore, fixing your life. And here's what I want to say right out the gate as clearly as possible. Almost all of it is lying to you. I said it. Not because cortisol isn't real. It absolutely is. Not because cortisol doesn't affect your body. It profoundly does. But because the way that this trend is being packaged and sold to you is the same diet culture machine that we've been fighting against for decades. It's just wearing a new outfit and using more sophisticated language. So today, and over the next few weeks, we're going to pick this machine apart. We're going to pick this diet culture down piece by piece, and we're going to replace it with something so much better, which is going to be the truth about your body and an actual path toward feeling like yourself again. So settle in, get your tea, get your coffee, get comfortable. If you're driving, maybe you're walking, maybe you're folding clothes. It is summertime. Hopefully the kids are not distracting you as you are listening to this. But wherever you are, I am really glad that you are here because this conversation matters and the ones that follow up with this one also really matter. So I want you guys to tune in today and tune in for the next couple of weeks because we've got some really good, juicy stuff coming. Now, let's start with the foundation because you can't see the truth of the lie until you understand what's underneath of it. So, what is cortisol? What is it? I've talked about this before on many podcasts, like I mentioned. So, cortisol is a hormone. It is a naturally occurring hormone in your body. It is made from your adrenal glands, which they're these tiny little glands that sit right on top of your kidneys. Okay, you have one on each side. And cortisol is part of your stress response. This stress response system is what we call the HPA axis. It is the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Try saying that 5 times fast. Don't worry about memorizing any of that scientific terminology. Just know that it's a communication loop between your brain and your adrenal glands. That's what the HPA axis is. Here's the most important thing I want you to understand. Cortisol is not your enemy. Cortisol is not bad. Cortisol is actually essential. Cortisol is what wakes you up in the morning, and there's a natural rhythm to it. It's supposed to be the highest in the morning, right? Usually peaking about 30 minutes after you wake up, and then it gradually declines through the day until it's at the lowest when you're ready to go to sleep. Now, that morning peak is called the cortisol awakening response, and it is very healthy. It's supposed to happen. It's what gives you energy to actually start your day. So cortisol also helps you to respond to stress. When something is genuinely threatening you, and I mean threatening your body in a way that your body has evolved to understand it, like a real physical danger, cortisol floods the system. It gives you energy, it sharpens your focus, it mobilizes your resources so that you can handle whatever this threat is. This is called your fight or flight response, and it is brilliant if you really think about it. It has kept many of us alive for generations, over hundreds of thousands of years. So again, not a bad thing. It actually helps us. Cortisol also regulates our blood sugar. It influences our immune system. It affects our metabolism, your blood pressure, your inflammation levels. It's woven almost entirely into the entire body's system of function. So when this trend is calling out cortisol like it's a villain in your story, that's what you need to crush. You need to, when they say, so a lot of people are saying like, oh, you need to lower your cortisol, right? You need to detox from it. You need to suppress it. You need to eliminate it. Like there's so many keywords around cortisol that are negative, right? And they're telling you to attack a system that is literally keeping you alive. So the problem has never been cortisol. The problem is what happens when this beautiful ancient system gets stuck in the on position, when your body is producing stress hormones in response to things that aren't actually life-threatening, like your email inbox or your finances or your relationships or your kids or your endless to-do list, the constant low-grade hum of modern life that, again, we've talked about across many episodes. When it is on to all of those things, it never gets the signal that it's safe enough to come back down. That's the real conversation. Not to lower your cortisol, but why does my body think it's in danger all the time? And how do I help it to feel safe again? And that's a completely different question. And it leads to completely different answers than what this trend is trying to sell you. So let's talk about the trend. Let's talk about how this trend is actually presenting cortisol and why it is so misleading. So if you want to, as you're watching this, and don't scroll. If you're someone who scrolls a lot, don't do this. But if you can contain yourself, open up your Instagram or your TikTok right now. And I dare you to search for the word cortisol and look at what you find. I'll give you a minute. Most of the time, what you will find are before and after pictures of what we're coining as cortisol face. It's the claim that a puffy, rounded face is caused by high cortisol levels, and that if you lower your cortisol, your face will slim down. You might also see what I talked about earlier about the cortisol belly. It's a claim that that stubborn belly fat that is in your midsection is specifically caused by cortisol, and that no amount of diet or exercise is going to fix it unless you address your cortisol. And please, if you see any of these as you're looking on Instagram, as I'm explaining these to you, please pop it in the comments that what you found, if they align or not. Other things that you might find are supplements that are promising to quote unquote balance or to lower your cortisol. Things like ashwagandha blends. You have adaptogen cocktails. Magnesium formulas are also one, and they're all marked as this solution to your stress and to your symptoms. You might even find a couple of the natural doctors giving you protocols about meal timing based on this cortisol curve, such as don't drinking coffee before X amount of time, eat protein within this window, or avoid carbs at this hour, things like that. They might even be telling you that your morning coffee is spiking your cortisol and ruining your hormones, that your fasted workout, right, is flooding you with stress hormones, that your busy life is literally poisoning you with cortisol. But here's the thing. Some of these claims, they do have a tiny grain of truth woven in them. And that's what makes them so effective. That's what makes them so hard to see through. They take a real piece of physiology, they exaggerate it way beyond what it's supposed to be, and they strip away all the little nuances, and they attach it to a visible symptom that you as women are genuinely worried about: your beauty, the way that you look, the way that you present to the world. And then they sell you a solution. Let me give you the clearest example: the claim that cortisol causes belly fat. So here's the grain of truth. We're gonna break this one down. The grain of truth is chronically elevated cortisol can influence your body stores, or where your body stores fat. And it can contribute to insulin resistance, which affects fat storage. That's real. There are studies on that, but here's the lie. Cortisol belly is a specific diagnosable condition that your belly fat is primarily caused by cortisol, and that a supplement or a protocol will lower the cortisol and it's going to melt it all away. All of that is the lie. Cortisol belly is not a diagnosable condition. The belly fat, not primarily caused by cortisol. And there is no real way, supplemental or protocol based, that's going to lower your cortisol and is just magically gonna melt away this belly fat. Not gonna happen. And that's how many of these things work. Many of these claims. And like I said before, like, this isn't new. It's just cortisol. Before, there were other things, right? We've gone through different foods that cause different things, and we've come to find out that's not true. Look at eggs, for example. Eggs were bad for you at one time because they elevated your cortisol level. I mean, not your cortisol, sorry. Cholesterol, same, different C word, cholesterol, right? And now they're not. There are so many things over time that this health industry, this diet culture has taken a piece of evidence and, like I said, stripped it away from what's actually true and tried to sell you something on the other side in order to give you a result that you're actually craving. But that's not how any of this works. Fat storage is influenced by dozens of factors: genetics, your overall caloric balance, insulin sensitivity, how well you are sleeping, your muscle mass, other hormones like estrogen or your thyroid, your nutrient status, right? Are you absorbing your nutrients that you are eating? Are you getting a variety of nutrients? Your activity level. We're at 8 things right now. Are you sedentary? Are you moderately active? What's your activity level? And yes, stress is one factor among 9 in total. We could probably go for 10. All right. So to pull out cortisol and isolate it and then sell it as the cause and the cure, it's not right. It's not honest, but it is so effective. It is so effective because you are standing in front of the mirror and you are frustrated with your body. You have literally tried everything. And when someone hands you a simple explanation, it's your cortisol. Another good one that I've heard is insulin resistance. That's another one that's picking up right behind the cortisol. And a simple solution like take this or do this protocol gives you a simple win. It's a simple explanation. And in that moment of frustration, it feels like relief. Finally, you have an answer. You have the symptom. You have a result, right? And I completely understand that relief. I have felt that relief. We are human. We are all human. And then I have also felt the crash when that supplement or that protocol or those timing regimens don't work. When you're right back to where you started. But now you're also a couple $100 maybe out. And you're feeling like even more of a failure because you did the thing, but it still didn't work. That cycle, not an accident. That cycle is a business model. And I want to spend some real time here because this is the heart of it. The cortisol trend is diet culture. It's just rebranded. It has just found the next theme song. Let me explain what I mean by diet culture, because this term also gets thrown around a lot. For many years it has. Diet culture is a system of beliefs that equate thinness, skinniness, with health and moral virtue, that demonizes certain foods and body types, and it promises you happiness and your worth if you can just control your body the right way. And critically, it's an industry, and it makes money by keeping you in a perpetual state of striving, never quite arriving, always needing that one next thing. So for decades, and again, I've definitely fallen victim to this over the years. Diet culture sold us calorie counting. Then it sold us low fat everything. Then it sold us low carb, right? Then it sold us cleanses, detoxes. Then it sold us clean eating. Then it sold us intermittent fasting. Then it sold us macros. And every time that the science exposed a new approach as flawed, or the trend got tired, diet culture did not go away. It just changed costumes. I'm going to side note here from my notes. Do y'all remember, and you can pop this in the comments, do you guys remember the thermogenics, the thermogenic supplements? When I was a teenager, it was like the Ozempic of the day, and I'm pretty sure they went out of business. And if they didn't go out of business, they had to reformulate their formula. But they were thermogenics, and everybody was taking these different thermogenics to lose weight. And I was one of them. And I did lose a lot of weight. But then come to find out, they weren't healthy. They were actually damaging our body, which is kind of why I sometimes get on my GLP-1 stand and call it out because it is a peptide and we do naturally generate it just like cortisol. But I don't think that the long-term research is there, just like the thermogenics long-term research wasn't there. I think it's just another means to an end. And I feel like a lot of people are going to come off of these GLP-1s and their weight is just going to jump right back up, because that's always what happens. Either that or there's going to be some issue with the way that their system functions that they're going to have to course correct at the end. And we don't know what that is because the science isn't there yet, because it's still new. It is still new. One person told me, well, we have to fight back against the food industry because the food industry has been poisoning us for years with different chemicals and things. It's a fair fight to say, like it's a fair statement to say, but there are ways that you can prevent the toxicity of food. How are you preventing the toxicity of GLP-1 overdose? We don't know. We don't know yet. So, not trying to sidetrack, but I feel like these things are happening across multiple areas in the health industry. And there's people like myself or even Dr. Hyman and other functional medicine practitioners who are actively fighting against these things and trying to bring you guys the actual truth and knowledge behind all of these diet culture claims. At the end of the day, that is all that all of this stuff is. How can you look better and feel better the quickest way possible, right? So let's get back on track. The brilliant thing, okay, about, and also the insidious thing about this whole cortisol rebrand is it uses the language of wellness and self-care and nervous system health, right? It uses words like balance, regulate, healing, and it sounds like the opposite of everything that diet culture claims. It really sounds gentle. It sounds really holistic. Get your life back, you know? It sounds like it cares about you as a person, as a whole. But underneath, the message is exactly the same thing. Your body is wrong. Your body is broken and it's your fault. And here's what to buy in order to fix it. Lower your cortisol to finally lose the weight. That is a weight loss promise. It's just dressed up in hormone language. Cortisol belly is why diet and exercise aren't working. That is telling you that your body is broken in a special way and that it requires a special solution, which is the oldest trick in the diet culture that there is. How about this one? You need to manage your stress to balance your hormones. Now, stress management, which should be about your well-being and your peace, becomes another item on your optimized checklist, another thing that you have to do right, and another way to fail. And this is what makes it so harmful, because the actual recommendation hidden inside the cortisol trend often makes your nervous system worse. Think about it. The trend tells you to be hypervigilant about your cortisol. Track it, worry about it, monitor it after every coffee, every workout, every meal. What's its impact? To fear your own stress response. What does hypervigilance do to your nervous system? It activates it. What does constant worry do to your stress hormones? Elevates them. What does adding 17 new rules to your life do to a woman who's already overwhelmed? It overwhelms her more. The cortisol trend is making your cortisol worse. By design or by accident, doesn't matter. The effect is still the same. It's keeping you anxious, striving, monitoring, spending, and never arriving. And I refuse to participate in that. And I want you guys who are listening to this to refuse to participate in that as well, which is why we're here doing this series. So let's get to the part that actually matters, because if it's not cortisol, or if it's not only cortisol, then what actually is happening when you feel tired, when you feel anxious, puffy, stuck, or off? So I want to talk to you through real root causes, because this is where healing actually begins. And I want you to notice how different this feels from the trend. The trend gives you one villain, one solution. The truth is going to give you a web of interconnected systems that are all talking to each other. It's more complex, yes, but it's also so much more helpful and hopeful, because it means that there are many doors into healing, and you get to start with whichever one is open for you. First thing I look at always, blood sugar. Blood sugar dysregulation is, in my experience, one of the most underestimated drivers of how women feel. When you're eating in a way that spikes your blood sugar, then crashes it, think lots of refined carbs, not enough protein, not enough fat. Maybe you're skipping meals. Breakfast is a huge one that a lot of women skip. And then potentially overeating could be another thing. You're putting your body on a roller coaster all day. Every crash triggers a stress response, which raises cortisol. So, ironically, if you want to support healthy cortisol, one of the most important things that you can do has nothing at all to do with cortisol itself. It is stabilizing your blood sugar. Make sure you're getting protein at every meal, healthy fats, and fiber. We have talked about this before, the PFF plate. Don't let yourself get to that shaky, desperate, hangry place. The second thing is your nervous system itself. Actually asking, does my body feel safe? Because your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment, your relationships, your thoughts, your past for signals of safety or danger. And if you're living in a chronic low-grade fight or flight, which so many women are, especially women who are carrying a lot of things on their to-do list, managing households, managing other people's needs, managing financial stress, managing things at work or in your business, your body is producing stress hormones because it genuinely believes it has to. The answer isn't to suppress the output. The answer is to send your body real embodied signals of safety. What does that look like? Breath, rest, co-regulation with safe people, time in nature, slowness, being present. Things that this trend will never sell you because you cannot put them in a bottle. The third thing I want you guys to look at is sleep. I cannot overstate this. When you don't get enough sleep, your entire hormonal system gets dysregulated. Your cortisol rhythm flattens or completely flips and inverts. Your hunger hormones, ghrelin, go haywire. Your insulin sensitivity drops. Your body cannot heal, regulate, or restore. And here's the brutal irony. Anxiety about your health keeps you up at night, and the lack of sleep makes your health worse, which makes you more anxious. If I could have a wand and give every woman listening one thing, it would honestly be a full night of consistent quality sleep, because that is how powerful sleep actually is. The fourth thing is nutrient status. You can be eating healthy and still be deficient in things your body needs to make and to regulate hormones. We've talked about this in previous episodes as well. Magnesium. Most people are deficient, and it's essential for the stress response, for sleep, and for blood sugar. B vitamins is another one. Energy and hormone production. Iron, if you're menstruating still. Omega-3 fats for inflammation and brain health. Vitamin D is huge, and I've talked about this specifically before. I myself have been vitamin D deficient. It is so common in women, so common, and it plays such a vital role in the regulation of our hormones. So if you have not gotten your vitamin D levels checked, please go get that done. The last thing is zinc. Zinc is also huge in the regulation of hormones. Without these raw materials, your body just simply cannot do the work. Doesn't matter how disciplined you are. The fifth thing I want to mention is your gut health. We've kind of stemmed away from that in culture, your microbiome, right? Your gut-brain barrier, things like that. But your digestion is where you actually absorb all the nutrients from your food. So if your gut is inflamed, if your microbiome is out of balance, if you have low stomach acid, you can eat perfectly well and still not get what you need. Plus, your gut and your brain are in constant communication. Like I just said, the gut-brain axis. So gut dysfunction directly affects your mood, your stress, and your nervous system. The sixth thing that I want to talk about are your actual hormones. And I mean your reproductive hormones, your thyroid, the whole picture. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid hormones. All of these affect your energy, your weight, your mood, your sleep, literally everything. And they shift across your cycle and therefore across your life. A cortisol supplement does nothing for a low thyroid or estrogen dominance or progesterone deficiency. Nothing. Think about how many times in our lives as women, our hormones are constantly shifting. We go through puberty, they shift. We get pregnant, they shift. After pregnancy, they shift. If we get pregnant again, they shift again. After that pregnancy, they shift again. When you are perimenopausal, they shift. When you go through menopause, they shift. There are so many stopping points along the way in a female's life where our hormones are constantly shifting. And that's just the grand scheme. Look at it month to month, and our hormones on a micro level are shifting every single day, every single week. We have to start paying attention to these things, and we have to start syncing up our bodies with what our bodies are actually needing in those moments, so that all of these things we're discussing today are no longer an issue. We're not buying in to the new cortisol trend because we know our hormones and we know where they're at any given day on any given week. So do you see what I'm doing here, right? I'm taking the one thing that the trend points at, cortisol, and I'm showing you that it sits inside this whole living interconnected system. And usually when a woman comes to me feeling stuck, it's not just one of those things. It's several of them, and they're woven together. Her blood sugar is unstable, and she's not sleeping, and she's deficient in magnesium, and her nervous system has been in fight or flight for 3 or 4 years. And also, to top all that off, her thyroid is sluggish. So cortisol might be part of the picture, but it's never the whole picture. And it's almost never the place to start. Now, I want to slow down because there's a piece of this that the science alone doesn't capture. And it's the piece that, to me, it matters the most. So everything that I just described, the blood sugar, nervous system, the sleep, the nutrients, the gut, the hormones, all of it, that's all science. That is research backed. You guys can go look at all the research studies out there for that. And it is real and it is important. And we're going to dig into all of that over the entire course of this series. But there is a soul piece too. And the soul piece is this: your body is not a machine to be optimized. Your body is not a problem that needs to be solved. Your body is also not the enemy that you have to control and discipline and fix. Your body is wise. Your body is communicating with you constantly. Every symptom is a message. The fatigue is a message. The anxiety, it's a message. The weight your body is holding onto is a message. Your body is not malfunctioning. It is responding intelligently and protectively to the conditions that it's been given. When your body holds on to weight during chronic stress, that is not a malfunction. That is your body trying to keep you safe in what it perceives as a famine or a threat. When your body is exhausted, that is not laziness or weakness. That is your body literally asking for rest that it is not getting. When your cycle goes haywire, it's not consistent, or it's too heavy, or not, or it skips a month, right? That's not your body betraying you. That's your body deprioritizing reproduction because it doesn't feel safe enough to support a new life in your womb. This is the reframe that changes everything. The trend treats your body like a misbehaving employee that needs to be managed and corrected. I am asking you to treat your body like a wise friend who's been trying to get your attention. And when you make this shift from fixing to listening, from controlling to collaborating, from fear to curiosity, something profound happens. You stop fighting your body, you start working with it, and guess what? Your body finally feels heard, and it finally feels safe. And what happens? It begins to let go of everything that it's been holding. That's where science meets soul. That's why we do what we do. We honor the biochemistry, the real, measurable, physiological stuff. And we honor the wisdom, the intuition, the embodied knowing that your body has been carrying all along, because you need both. You need the science, but the science without the soul becomes just another optimization protocol. The soul without the science just becomes wishful thinking, but together they become healing. So here's where we're going over the next several weeks. This is episode 1. This is the big picture. This is the umbrella, right? This is our setup. And I wanted to give you this whole landscape today so you can see the trend for what it is and to start feeling that loosening, right? That relief that comes when you realize it's never your fault. The answer was never going to be packaged in a supplement bottle or another checklist. Next week, in episode 2, we're going deep on the cortisol belly specifically. We're going to dismantle the single most viral claim in this whole trend, that your stubborn belly fat is caused by cortisol. And I'm going to show you what's actually going on and what actually helps. In the weeks after that, we're going to tackle cortisol supplements. Do they work? What do they actually do? What's worth your money and what's a waste of time? We're going to talk about cortisol and food, the meal timing myths, and what actually matters about how you eat. We're going to talk about the nervous system in depth, because that is where so much of the real healing lives. We're going to talk again about cycle syncing, how your hormones shift across the month and what that means for how you eat and how you move and how you rest. We already have an episode fully on that. You guys can go check that one out. I think it came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago, but we're going to go through it again in case you guys haven't. Then here's the part that I'm most excited about, the one that we're going to tie everything together, is we're going to talk about the deep stuff, the mitochondria, the cellular energy piece that almost nobody is talking about, but matters tremendously. So every episode is taking one piece of that trend and exposing the machinery underneath of it. And we're going to replace it with the truth that you can actually use, so that by the end of this series, my hope is that you'll never look at cortisol and the posts and the social media and the outrage the same ever again. You'll have the kind of immunity to the fear-based marketing. And more than that, you guys will have a real, grounded, embodied understanding of your own body personally and what it actually needs. Which ultimately brings me to something that I want to share with you, because it's exactly aligned with everything we're talking about today and in this series. I created something called the Rooted Reset, and it might be exactly what you need if this episode is really resonating with you. So the Rooted Reset is a 90-minute one-to-one session with me. And it exists for the woman who is exactly where I described at the beginning of this episode. You're literally doing everything right. You're tired of chasing the trends. You're exhausted from all this optimization and checklisting and managing and all the things, and it's not working. And you are ready to actually understand what your specific body has been trying to tell you. In our 90-minute window together, we're not going to talk about trends. We're not going to talk about what the internet says you should be doing. We're going to look at your actual body, your actual symptoms, your actual hormones, gut, nervous system, and how they're all talking to each other. We're looking at what's really happening and what's really keeping you stuck. And you don't just leave with information. Information is everywhere. Information alone has not healed you, or you'd already be healed, right? You're going to leave with clarity, with a personalized path forward that's rooted in your body and your real life. Your actual schedule with your actual budget and your actual capacity. Within 48 hours of that call, I'm going to send you a personalized healing blueprint that you can start using literally the next day, right away. There's no long-term commitment here. It's not my 90-day program. It's not a giant program that you have to buy into. It's literally a 90-minute package. And it will finally make sense of your body and give you a clear path forward. So if you want to book that, you can go to the link in the show notes so you can easily find it. If something in you perked up just now, if you felt that little yes, that little, this is what I've been needing, then I gently encourage you to honor that. Your body's been trying to get your attention. And maybe this is part of how you finally listen. So before we close, I want to give you something to actually do this week, because I don't want you just to be here for more information, right? It goes in one ear and it goes out the other. I want it to actually land in your body. So here's your practice. This week, I want you to notice every time you encounter cortisol fear, every time you see a post or an ad or a reel telling you that your cortisol is a problem and here's what to buy. Instead of believing it or buying it, I just want you to pause and ask one question. What is underneath this? What is this actually selling me? And what is it telling me about my body? That's it. Just notice. Get curious. You don't have to change anything yet. You don't have to fix anything. You're just beginning to develop that immunity, that discernment, that ability to see the machinery. Then, as a second layer, if you have the capacity, okay, don't do this if you don't. I want you to ask your body one question this week. Sit quietly, even for 2 minutes. Put your hand on your heart or your belly or both. And ask, what are you trying to tell me? And just listen. You might not get a clear answer right away, and that's okay. It's a practice. The practice is in the asking. You're beginning to rebuild a relationship with your body that this trend has never been actively trying to serve. It's actually been trying to sever it. So I want you to leave with this. As I always say, you are not broken. Your body is not broken. The cortisol trend wants you to believe that you are, because broken people they buy solutions, but you are here and you are not broken. You're a wise woman in a body that's been doing its absolute best to take care of you under very hard conditions. Society is real. Reality is real. Our culture is real. And it is hard. It's not easy anymore. The path forward is not more fear. It isn't more optimization. It's not more rules and restrictions and monitoring. The path forward is curiosity and listening and addressing the actual roots, your blood sugar, your nervous system, your sleep, your nourishment, your rhythm, with both the rigor of science and the wisdom of your own embodied knowing. That's what we're going to keep doing together every week in this series. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for being the kind of woman who questions the trends, who wants the truth, who's willing to do the deeper work. That's exactly the kind of woman who heals. And I'm honored to walk this with you. If this episode resonated, please share it with a friend who needs to hear it. There's probably a woman in your life right now buying a cortisol supplement out of fear, and you could be the one who hands her the truth instead. So I will see you next week when we take apart cortisol belly once and for all. Until then, please be gentle with yourself. Your body is listening to how you talk to it. This is Healing Her Feminine. I'm Lindsey Alexis. Take care of yourself.